This video is brought to you by the good folks at KEH. Hey everybody, I'm Hugh Brownstone for Three Blind Men and an Elephant, and I will make this short. In the midst of rapidly rising prices for full-frame cameras and lenses, a resurgence of interest in the APS-C camera segment, and global supply chain issues which have further exacerbated upward pricing pressure on new and used gear, Fujifilm's 4-year-old X-H1 has become a used camera steal. Here's the thing. First, when Fujifilm announced their new $1,900, well, $2,200, hold that thought, do-it-all IBIS-equipped 3.7 million EVF top-plate sub-panel 4K recording, built like a brick house APS-C flagship X-H1 in 2018, they had the misfortune of doing so just as other better, more keenly priced cameras had hit the market. I'm talking about Sony's revelatory full-frame $2,000 A7 III, Panasonic's beautiful and thoroughly executed $1,700 Micro Four Thirds G9. And then, just months after that, right, Fujifilm's own $1,500 X-T3. Together, these three cameras just sank the X-H1. A little bit like the Neptune missiles that sank the Russian flagship Moskva. Although, of course, not the same thing. Sorry, couldn't help myself. It's just that life is bigger than cameras and... Yeah, okay, hold that thought for another video. Anyway, the A7 III had a full-frame sensor, but more importantly, better video specs where it mattered, like 4K recording back then, even up to 30 minutes, and mic and headphone jacks, all without the need to pony up for an optional $300 battery grip, never mind the Sony's superior autofocus, wider lens selection, better high ISO performance, shallower depth of field at the margin, yada, yada, yada. The G9 had as good or better video specs than the X-H1 and the Sony, including 4K 60p, way better IBIS, better ergos, and had the flippy screen and HDMI A port, yay, both the A7 III and X-H1 did not. Interestingly enough, while the G9's autofocus system was contrast detect only and not nearly as good as the Sony's, a phase detect hybrid system, the G9's actual autofocus performance was closer than one would have imagined to the hybrid autofocus equipped as well, X-H1, basically matching it for stills in all but the most extreme circumstances, like birding, fair enough, and actually smoother, if not as sure, for video. With dynamic range, by the way, that matched the X-H1 up to ISO 800, trailing it by half a stop through ISO 12,800. Although what most people didn't realize then, or now, is that equalized for depth of field, the G9's ISO performance was about on par with the Fujifilm and the Sony. Then again, keeping it real, there was a difference, to my eye anyway, most likely due to the G9's limitation of 12-bit stills capture. When the X-T3 came along months after that, it sported a brand new, modestly higher resolution sensor accompanied by a brand new processor, the end result of which proved to be things like 4K 60p now, that, as I just said, the X-H1 and A7 III did not have, better autofocus than the X-H1, still not as good as the A7 III, mic and headphone jacks in the body itself, although for headphones it did require a USB-C to 3.5 millimeter thingamabob, which, as it turns out, was almost always the first thing you'd lose, like a homing pigeon immediately leaving the vicinity of the box in which it came for parts unknown, and... like the A7 III and X-H1, the X-T3 arrived with a fiddly micro HDMI port. Feh! But most importantly, at $1,500, the X-T3 was just under 75% of the price of a properly configured X-H1, that is, with the optional 300 grip one really needed, even if the X-T3 didn't have the X-H1's IBIS. The X-T3 was so good and keenly priced, in fact, that it in turn, along with the A7 III, sank the G9. But with all of this said, second, that was then. This is now. With everything that I just mentioned, now the very real flaws of the X-H1 as a hybrid camera, for many of us, simply melt away when considered as a photography-only instrument, which is how I suggest you think about it, or as an exceptionally cost-effective and enjoyable introduction to the X system as a hybrid system. It was, however, at launch, Fujifilm's ambitions aside, and still is today, first and foremost, a special photographer's tool, right down to the tilty-only rear screen that many photographers prefer, especially this particular implementation, which is also perfect for low-level vertical shots. But the real kicker is today's price. You can pick up a used X-H1 in like new minus condition at KEH for under $800. In fact, I borrowed one from our friends at KEH and mated it to both my own XF16-55 2.8 red badge zoom and the new 33 1.4, courtesy of Fujifilm, during our Streets of New York photography workshop just last week for images like this. We're talking 1/3 the price of an X-H2S, half the price of a new X-T4, half the price of a used A7 III, one grade lower, excellent plus, basically 1/10 the price of my Leica SL2. And I have to tell you, I'd forgotten just how silky smooth the X-H1's shutter release is. Truly one of the best in the business even today. And just how small, light, solid, and good the camera feels in hand. Especially with that 33 1.4. Gorgeous, if a little heavy on vignetting wide open, although I don't mind and it's easily corrected. I was also taken aback by how good the autofocus was for street work. Faster and surer than my SL2. A whole lot smaller and lighter too. The only thing it's really lacking, given what and how we shoot our personal work, is more resolution. Lots more resolution. But I think it's fair to say that most of us will never crop the crap out of an image the way Claudia and I do, nor print as large as we do. We just unpacked our latest, a 60-inch print on the long side on aluminum, destined for a gallery, I think. Hold that thought for another video too. Of course, you could pick up a used X-T2 for even less, a camera that I loved when I got my hands on one in 2017. Still fabulous today for photographs. But with a superior EVF, IBIS that you can scoff at all day long, but won't once you actually try it. And yes, I'm talking stills. Better build quality, better grip, you get the idea. I'd find the extra $200 for the X-H1. That's it. Practically a public service announcement that I feel very comfortable making now that I see Fujifilm re-energizing its lens line and on its way, according to Fujifilm at the latest X Summit, to a 40 megapixel upgrade path. Oh baby. This video is brought to you by the good folks at KEH. Not only is KEH the oldest and biggest at what they do, buying and selling exclusively used camera gear of all sorts since 1979. But they do it well, with integrity and both a 180-day warranty and 21-day return policy, free shipping on transactions over $49. which is why, because they make it as futz-free a process as possible, they are our go-to whenever we are looking to fund new purchases by selling our own gear or buying that special used piece of kit properly graded and checked when we want to go quirky or old school. Check them out using the special links and 5% discount or bonus code in the video description below. Thank you, KEH. If you like what you've seen here today, please give a thumbs up, subscribe, join the conversation below, because this is an incredible audience. If you'd like a copy of our Streets of New York, the book, head over to www.3bmep.com/books. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one video session with me for a portfolio review, explore or hone your artistic voice, select gear, and more, sign up at www.3bmep.com/booking. Finally, consider supporting our work by using our no-cost-to-you affiliate links down below, picking up some official Three Blind Men and an Elephant swag at 3bmep.threadless.com, sending coffee money via PayPal, or best of all, join us as a patron over at Patreon. However you choose to support us, as always, we thank you for it.